Good morning, everyone. I am Officer Matt Niemeyer. I'm one of the downtown resource officers with the City of Fargo. The other two are Tyler Nord and Dean Jordheim. Reason I'm dressed differently today, I'm currently on what we call light duty with an injury. So for those of you that have noticed me missing from downtown for a couple of months, that's what's been going on. Hoping to return here pretty soon. The other speakers that we will have today will be Jillian Gould from Homeless Outreach, as well as Sheriff Jesse Johnner. Our agenda for the day will cover several things, including calls for service, the crime trends, an aggravated assault review, as well as a critical incident review. We'll touch on perceptions, action plans, harm reduction division update, as well as the jail information and Cass County Sheriff's Office update as well. One disclaimer that I need to have in here for those of you who track our crime data. We've lost our crime analyst due to her seeking another opportunity. We're currently in the process of hiring another one. And so until that point, we don't have the reports that she was able to provide us before. So all the numbers that I will be talking about today, I believe are very close, but I had to go through them by hand and try to calculate that data on my own without the benefit of having the analyst. So again, these numbers should be very close, but for those that track our crime data, when you see the official reports in a few months, that will likely not be exact. So for August, our total calls for service on beat 14, which is our downtown beat, came to 770. We had a variety of call types. The most common ones included disturbance, suspicious persons or vehicles, traffic complaints, medical assists, impaired calls about an impaired person, and then a variety of other criminal complaints, such as assault, theft, domestics, which would be an assault or threats, and several other things as well. Again, 770 calls. There was a lot of different things that those pertain to. However, these were the most common ones that we found. Our top 10 calls for service locations, these were not officer initiated, so these were calls generated by someone from the public or possibly a business owner. We had 31 at the Matt Bus Station at 502 NP Avenue. We had 22 at the Empire at 424 Broadway. We had 21 at Municipal Courthouse. We had 20 at 926th Avenue North, which is an apartment building. We had 19 at 123 Robert Street, which again is an apartment building. Salvation Army, we had 17 calls. And then at 303 Roberts, which is Herald Square Apartments and Hill Law Office, we had 16 calls. And at the downtown library at 102 3rd Street, we had 12. Roberts Commons Apartments were 11. And then at another apartment building at 9.5 9th Street South, there were 11. For our crime trends, we had several cases that happened throughout the month of August. The ones of note would be 3 aggravated assaults. There were no gross sexual impositions. We had 3 burglaries, 6 cases of criminal mischief, 18 thefts, 0 vehicle thefts, and then we had 3 unlawful entries to a motor vehicle, and then 1 shoplifting. This particular stat, the shoplifting, might be more than that. It's just those particular calls may have also been coded as a theft. So when those numbers come out officially, we may see that shoplifting number is higher and the theft number is lower. So for our aggravated assault review on beat 14, or our downtown beat, we had 1 incident on August 1st at 10:33 p.m. when a male jumped over the bar at the VFW at 202 Broadway, grabbed a glass bottle of alcohol, and hit another patron over the head with that bottle, causing that patron to lose consciousness. He also assaulted an employee as well as a responding police officer before being placed under arrest. That incident, an arrest was able to be made, and it's currently pending the state's attorney's review. On the 5th at 1 a.m., we had a male claim that another male hit him while he was at a bench at 6th Avenue North and Broadway. And he's claimed that that male hit him with a firearm. To our knowledge, the firearm was never fired. However, he said he asked this male how his night was going, at which point the male turned and assaulted him. The victim in this case said he chased that male afterwards, but that male was able to get away before jumping into a vehicle and then leaving the area. This is currently an open investigation. The third one happened on August 8th at 1:09 a.m. when a fight broke out at Fort Knox at 52 Broadway. A Fort Knox employee attempted to break up this fight, and one of them said a male grabbed his throat, which caused him pain and an injury. All suspects were gone when the officers arrived, and at this point, efforts to identify the suspects have been unsuccessful. This case is currently listed inactive. I want to stress that that does not mean that the investigation is over. It just simply means that there is currently no active leads to pursue. So between attempts to identify this person through video or pictures are still out there. Just at this point, there aren't active leads to pursue. Hopefully, in the near future, we'll have someone be able to help us identify this person and provide a lead so we can reopen this case and keep trying to find those that are responsible. This didn't happen in August, but it happened over the weekend, and so we assumed that most people would probably want a little bit of an update. Due to the critical incident, the disturbance involving gunshots at 64 Broadway North over the weekend, it's currently an open investigation. This is not something that I can talk a lot about, but I have been able to give a brief from our investigation sergeant that's responsible for this investigation. So at approximately 1:15 a.m. on Sunday, Fargo officers heard what they believed to be gunshots in the area of 64 Broadway North. A call for help was made to area agencies, and Moorhead Police Department, West Fargo Police Department, NDSU, Highway Patrol, and then, of course, Cass County Sheriff's Office all responded to assist us with making that area safe as well as handling the investigation. To date, no one has been reported injured or having sustained property damage from this incident, and some evidence has been recovered by the police department, and one person of interest in that case has been officially ruled out as a suspect. Our investigators are still reviewing video cameras from the area, and at this point it is believed that the responsible person climbed a fire escape ladder, which is based on a witness's statement, and then fired the gun up into the air. That witness saw someone climbing up the ladder, but did not witness that person firing a firearm. At this point, if anybody hears other information or anything that they believe may be related to this, please contact the department to provide us with that lead or that information. Some of the takeaways that we've discussed at this point would be securing fire escape ladders as well as other roof access points. The more we can do to limit people's ability to climb up to these roofs or these other areas that we might consider sensitive, the better. The fewer points we have of access to rooftops obviously will keep all of us quite a bit safer. So many of you that have routinely been at these presentations will notice that this is probably a repeat from last month. But again, a lot of issues that we have coming from dumpster diving, harassing comments from people walking by, sitting on benches, and people not conducting business, unwanted conversations, people being intoxicated in public, sleeping in public, asking passerbys for money, all of these issues that obviously affect the perception and affect the environment of downtown, being out of, walking the beat for some time now. I guess I don't have a lot to update on that, but do either of you have anything to update on this.
The dumpster diving, we get a lot of, we get calls from businesses in Fargo or downtown, and we are able to get video, and once we are able to make contact with that person, that person is cited for that crime of actually trespassing, which is doing once the dumpster diving, because it's on somebody else's property. So it's at least one way for us to kind of curb that type of behavior. It's not the answer, but it sure is one way to kind of keep people out of their business property.
The intoxicated people in public, that is something that the DROs are looking for each and every day. And that person is either cited for that, for consuming alcohol in public, or a lot of times Officer Nord and I are getting in contact with homeless outreach and detox, Gladys Ray Shelter, and so on, to try to get that person some help. Because we know the problem is bigger than just citing people for it. So, and that's been very helpful. The sleeping in public. I mean, there are, this is a small part of a habitual thing that happens downtown, but it isn't like it's becoming a pandemic or an epidemic. It's a lot of people that are not willing to use the shelters because the weather is warmer out. But once it gets colder, we'll see more people going to the shelters. But we are in constant contact with Jillian and her staff, trying to get these people the resources they need. And then asking people for money on Broadway, especially on Broadway, is panhandling. Again, we also give warnings for this, but we also cite for this. But if they're asking for money, and if you are willing to give them something, I would give them buy them a sandwich or buy them some food instead of giving them actual money, because they will just take that money and go to the liquor store and buy a bottle. Again, a lot of these people, we know who they are because we see them every day, and we make casual conversation with them every day. So we also get in touch with Jillian and her staff to try to outreach them and get them, some basic needs: food and water and clothing, maybe some shelter. Maybe they can get them signed up for housing. And that's just the beginning, but we're not looking to, as police officers, to just cite everybody because we know that's not gonna get us out of this issue.
Okay, thank you, Dean. So we spoke a little bit about citations. Here's our citation breakdown for the month of August. There were 25 citations for selling, consuming, or possessing alcohol in public, 20 for criminal trespass, which I believe that those numbers going up was a response due to several of the dumpster diving issues, as well as some other issues that were being caused by people returning to properties that they had been told they were not allowed to come back to. Is that correct? Okay. We had 6 for marijuana possession, 4 for driving under suspension, 3 for driving under the influence of alcohol, 2 urinating in public, 2 for bicycles that were disobeying the traffic control device, mainly one of the, either a that would be a stop sign or a traffic light, 1 for bicycles on the sidewalks, 1 for panhandling, 1 for operating a motor vehicle without liability insurance, 1 for an open container in a motor vehicle, open alcohol container that is, and then 1 for other traffic citations with a total of 67. We had 101 proactive community-oriented policing activities. So these would have been everything from either, I don't know, can you guys give a breakdown of a lot of the ones that you were doing out there? Or at least some examples?
Sorry. Majority of those are coming from just our COP calls, but they're also us stopping out and talking with businesses, stopping out and talking with kids and saying hi. Or there's other various police activities or events going on throughout the city that those are also coming from. That's the biggest thing, is where all those activities are actually at.
Okay.
As far as the logged hours, those are the amount of time that we're out on foot. We're trying to track both foot and biking downtown, just so we can kind of differentiate between the two. But I think now you're going to start seeing us a lot more on bike downtown, at least until it starts to get colder out.
All right, thank you, Officer Nord. All right, so we also have several efforts going for, again, helping to try to find resolutions for issues downtown, as well as helping to change the perspective, one of which is a social media campaign, Walking Together, Working Together, Downtown Together, which is also involving a short video series. Do you guys have an update on what we've been doing with that? Don't? Okay. We also have community care plans, partnerships, and with stakeholders downtown. One of which was a high calls for service individual that has been connected with services, which obviously is not just a win for us, but it's a huge win for that individual as well, being able to kind of turn a corner and start working towards a healthier life. Possibly when Jillian is up, she may be able to give us more on that, I don't know. And then obviously open communication. We have shareable video segments, as well as sharing our crime data. Several opportunities that we've been able to take to help provide transparency, not only for what the state of downtown is, but also with efforts that we've been trying to take to help address some of these issues. Do you guys have anything else with that? Okay. So now I'll turn it over to Jillian Gould for an update on harm reduction.
Good morning. My name is Jillian Gould. I'm the Homeless Outreach Coordinator for the Gladys Ray Shelter and the Harm Reduction Division of Fargo Public Health. So for those of you that are not aware of our division, it incorporates the Gladys Ray Shelter, Withdrawal Management Unit, which is also known as Fargo Detox, Homeless Outreach, also known as Street Outreach, our Mobile Outreach Program, the Harm Reduction Center downtown, and recently the Engagement Center downtown as well. One of our biggest programs that, one of our programs that is downtown probably most frequently is our Mobile Outreach Program. That is, for those of you that are not aware, unmarked SUV that responds to those that are in a crisis related to their substance use. In August, we were able to provide 180 transportations. That might be anything from, somebody intoxicated downtown that needed to go to detox, somebody maybe at Sanford that needed to go to Moorhead Detox where they provide medications. Those staff are out and about every single day responding to those individuals. So out of those 180 transports, we transported 130 unique individuals. 42 of those transports were initiated by staff. So that means that staff were able to respond to somebody that likely probably would have required a call for service for law enforcement or emergency services later, which, as you can imagine, is a huge cost savings. 18 of those calls were police referrals from Fargo Pd. Staff also, when they're not responding to calls for service, are providing housing supports. So we can get folks housed, right? Then they're not existing downtown, they're not as problematic. But unless we keep them housed, they're just gonna come back. So those housing supports are super, super important to make sure, you know, did you pay your rent? Have you paid your electricity bill? Do you have enough food? Are you having issues with your landlord or your neighbor? How can we address these things to keep you in your housing? Staff were able to provide 336 of those housing supports to 68 individuals that we have assisted getting into housing. Staff were also able to provide 971 street outreach contacts. That means stopping and having a conversation with somebody that's on the street, whether that's on 4th and Broadway or the alley behind Cooper House or outside of the engagement center. To 215 unique individuals, so that's a lot of people, right? We probably have a small core of those that are behavioral downtown or things like that, and that's something that staff are really good about confronting, having conversations. Just because you're in a bad situation doesn't give you an excuse to be a bad neighbor downtown. We expect that you respect our neighbors and respect our neighborhood. If we see somebody drinking in public, we're gonna tell them to put their bottle away. If we see somebody passed out in a stairwell, we're gonna get them up. So trying to respond to those situations so that law enforcement doesn't have to, because it's not a police issue, it's a community issue. I have slides from Leah. Leah's our amazing housing coordinator. Do you want me to go over them, Leah? So in the first quarter of the year, Leah was able to work with our staff and our guests to get 12 individuals housed. In quarter 2, she housed 11 people. There's currently 22 housed this year. That means just since January, we've housed a lot more in previous years that are still housed. Some have been housed for a long time. We unfortunately have had 1 die in housing and had 3 evictions recently. Currently, we have 2 guests of the shelter that have emergency housing vouchers, so they're actively seeking an apartment or a landlord that's willing to give them a shot. And we have 6 with tenant protection vouchers and 2 with applications pending at the Graver. So hopefully by the next time we're here, we have almost 11. Is that 11? I'm bad at math. This is why I went into a social work field. We'll have that many more people housed, which is very exciting. That's what I got.
Okay, well, we left this slide in here again as a repeat in case anybody was looking for these numbers. If no one is needing to write any of these down, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the sheriff. Okay. All right. Don't need to save it. And then after the sheriff is done speaking, we'll have a time for open discussion and further questions.
This one? Okay.
All right, good morning. My name is Jesse Johnner. I'm the sheriff in Cass County. Can everyone hear me okay? I'm not standing up behind the podium. All right. I want to thank everyone for coming this morning. And you want me to use mine? Okay. This one's pretty good.
I don't typically like to just stand behind the microphone, but we can do that, I guess. So as I was mentioning, I want to thank everyone this morning for being here and taking time out of your schedules to partner with us, to partner with law enforcement and to work together with us to solve community issues. I think that's really why all of us are here this morning, so I appreciate that. I want to thank Fargo PD because they invited me here this morning to give you a little bit of information. And I've had an opportunity to work with all 3 of these gentlemen over here, and you guys have some really good officers downtown. I've worked with them in different capacities, and they're very, very quality officers and very much willing to work with you, from what I know of them, in helping solving issues. So my whole point this morning is I just want to give you information about the sheriff's office to let you know what the sheriff's office does, how we can potentially assist you. And while I'm going along, if anyone has questions, please make sure that you ask me. So I want to first make sure that everyone understands the difference between the sheriff's office and the police department. The difference is that I'm an elected official, so the citizens of Cass County elect me into my position. I run for my position every 4 years. This is my first term. I'm in my third year. I've worked with the Cass County Sheriff's Office since 1998, and I've done a variety of different assignments there. I started off in the jail. I worked in the patrol division. I worked with the Cass County Drug Narcotics Task Force. I worked with the Metro Area Street Crimes Unit. I've supervised our school resource program, our use of force, and I was with Red River Valley SWAT for 17 years, so it's kind of a little background on me. The main objective, or the main, I guess, service that the Sheriff's Office provides is, number one, we want to make sure that we are encompassing public safety. That's our main objective. We want to make sure that everyone in our community is safe. The other things that the sheriff is responsible for is to arrest and take people before a magistrate if they have outstanding warrants. So the sheriff's office, we're the agency that goes out and looks for people with active warrants. The other main responsibility of the sheriff is overseeing the jail. So not sure if everyone knows that if Fargo PD arrests someone, or West Fargo PD, anyone in Cass County, they come to the Cass County Jail. And so as the sheriff, I'm responsible for overseeing the jail. Just a little bit of information about the size of our agency and our budget. In 2019, our annual budget was 19 million approximately, and in 2020 it was 19. It's gone up a little bit in 21 because we're adding an addition to our jail, so we've had to add some staff. We're adding an intake area to our jail. Currently, it's being built right now. The jail is a bigger portion of our budget, so you see that approximately of that 19 million, about 12 million of it is for the jail. So the other 7 million is for our field services, so that'd be for patrol, investigations, street crimes, anything that we would do out in the field. And the jail is where a large amount of our employees are. We've got 114 employees in the jail approximately. Currently, we're down about 18 people, so we're down quite a few people. We've had people leave from retirements, and we've had people leave because they say that law enforcement is no longer for them. It's not a profession that they want to be in. So we've had some unfortunate stuff with that. Any questions on that at all? As most of you know that live in Cass County is a fairly large county. It's 1,768 square miles, and we have 27 cities within Cass County, which includes, of course, Fargo and West Fargo. So we patrol the whole county. I've had questions like, well, can you guys do stuff in the city? Can you do stuff in Fargo? Can you do stuff in West Fargo? Yes, we can. We have jurisdiction everywhere. We typically try to concentrate our patrol efforts out in the county because you have, the city of Fargo has a police department, and West Fargo does. We have a number of small communities out in the county that don't have enough money to have a police department. And so we try to concentrate our patrol efforts out in the county area. If the city of Fargo or West Fargo calls us for assistance, then we'll come in and assist them. If our deputies, when they're driving through the city, come across things, they'll stop and answer those calls for service, take those traffic complaints, assist with crashes. But that's kind of, in general, how we operate. And I'm going to talk a little bit in the future here about how we partner with Fargo and West Fargo currently to work on some of the community issues that we have or see from time to time. On this one, I'm just going to simply point out our total calls for service. We've seen a kind of a jump in those. So if you look at 2017, we averaged 18,600 calls for service, or that's how many we had, I should say, not averaged. And you can see that jumped up in 2019, decreased in 2020, and that's obviously because of COVID. We had changed our our operations during the COVID timeframe and how we were responding for to calls for service. So that number went down a little bit. I looked at the 2021 numbers, and if we kind of stay where we are right now, we'll probably end up with around 35,000 calls for service. So we're just kind of gradually increasing. Just a real quick idea of how we do our operations out in the county. We divide our areas into districts. And so as you look, you've got N1, N2, N3, and then the black lines there is 94, and then State Highway 18, which runs through Castleton. So typically we have our deputies out in these different districts. It's something that we've changed to recently because we want to speed up our response times to those who live out in the county. Because as we mentioned, it's a large area to cover. So we have people in those districts, and then on top of that, we have rover units that can go back those deputies up in those districts, and then also come into the city if we need to come in and assist. All right, we talked a little bit about jurisdiction, which encompasses all of Cass County. A couple of the differences between city and county is that we can enforce city ordinances. So the city of Fargo makes ordinances in the city. We cannot enforce those because we don't contract police services with the city of Fargo. So the only thing that we can enforce is state statute. So some of the things that, some issues that you may come or have in downtown area from time to time, some of those might be city ordinance specific, and we wouldn't be able to enforce that per se. But of course, again, our overall objective is public safety, right? So if we were in that area and there was a public safety issue, we would certainly work through that situation to make sure that everyone was safe, okay? And there are certain cities or state statutes that obviously reflect city ordinances. So we get to the jail. The max capacity of the Cass County Jail is 348. If you look on there, our total bookings in 2018 were 9,701. Our high count during that time period was 302. 2019 total bookings were 9,105. I didn't have the male-female statistics for 2018. It's kind of something that we've recently monitored. And that just shows that of those total 9,105 bookings, 6,829 were males and 2,276 were females. Our high count for one day during that time frame was 323, which is pretty high. And we'll talk about that in just a minute here. 2020 total bookings, 6,932. Those went down a little bit because of the way that we had changed how we were working through situations during COVID. As most of you know, some people during COVID, to try to limit our contacts, some people were being cited and released. So if law enforcement came into contact with them and they cited them, some of those individuals who would maybe normally go to jail were cited and released and given a court date to come back to court at a later time. Of course, that decision was made again based off of public safety. So if we came across someone that we thought was a public safety issue, then they still went to jail because we certainly don't want anyone to get hurt. And you can look in 2021, our high count is 307. So why I want to spend a little bit of time on this is I know there was some questions from some of the downtown community members and businesses on, are we still citing and releasing some people, or is everyone going to jail? We have to make sure that we can keep the jail safe as well, right? And inmates that are in there. And so we still do monitor when people come in. We monitor them to make sure that they do not have COVID. So when someone comes into the jail, they're isolated for a short period of time, and we test. They're given a test before they can be moved back to the general population. The way the Cass County Jail is set up is we have 48 inmates in one pod and 2 deputies that work in there. Those inmates can be out during the day intermingling with each other. And so if we don't isolate people when they come into our facility and we put them back into the general population right away and we're not sure if they have COVID, as you can imagine, could spread throughout that pod really quickly. And the things that we need to keep in mind with that is, number one, if 48 people get sick with COVID, what's that gonna do to our hospital system in the area? It's gonna inundate it, right? And it's gonna overwhelm it. We don't wanna do that. So we have to be very diligent when people are coming in our facility that we're monitoring that. We more than likely, if we had an outbreak like that, would probably have to treat them at the jail, so we didn't overwhelm the medical system. So that's an important piece that we have to monitor right now. And as you can imagine, when we isolate people, it takes a little bit more room in the jail, ties up a little bit more space. So that somewhat limits the amount of capacity that we have in the jail currently. Like it says on the top there, the max capacity is 348. When we get to 320, that's when we start moving people to other jurisdictions. Because on any given Friday, Saturday night, busy time in the Fargo, West Fargo, Cass County area, we could book in as much as 25 to 30 people in one night. And we can't go over 348. The Cass County Jail is governed by DOCR, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and they have certain guidelines that we have to follow. If we don't, they'll shut us down. And they monitor that stuff, and one of them is going over capacity. So when we get to that 320, we have to move people to other jurisdictions, and then the question becomes, well, how does that work? That becomes really expensive for the taxpayers of Cass County, because it costs us $85 a day to house an inmate at another jurisdiction. And if that person has court, I have to send people out to get them and bring them back for court. And so we have transportation costs, overtime costs, fuel costs. It gets really expensive. So we have to monitor that population on a daily basis, and we have to determine, what's best for the community. Again, public safety is going to overrule everything. If we have to move people to different jurisdictions to keep the community safe, we'll do that. But that's kind of, those are things that we need to take into consideration. People that are at the jail are pre-trial, most of them, or they're serving short sentences. Anyone who's sentenced to a year and a day goes out to the state penitentiary. Okay? Anyone under that stays at the jail. And when we move people out to the state penitentiary, there's other guidelines that we have to do there with COVID. The state penitentiary won't accept inmates from us unless they've been tested and we know that they don't have COVID, because obviously we don't want to have an outbreak out there. So there's a lot of different things right now with COVID that restrict some of the stuff that we're doing. Okay, so once someone is arrested, there's a few things that happen. Obviously, we always do a medical assessment before they come to our facility. If that person's not showing any signs of any medical conditions, then they come to the jail. Or some of them are released on their own recognizance out on the street. Okay? Booked in, fingerprinted, that type of thing. And then we have several programs in the jail where we try to help people reintegrate back into the community, right? We don't want to have this revolving door of people. If people get in trouble and they come in, we understand that people make mistakes. We want to try to get them back onto a road of recovery if it's possible. Whether it's an addiction issue, a mental health issue, if there's a serious mental health issue, we want to make sure we can try to get them the help that they need through the state hospital. If it's an addiction issue, we want to try to get them into services where they can get help, because it doesn't do anyone any good to have this revolving door of people that are coming in and out of our facility, right? Because number one, we want that person to be successful. Number two, it costs the taxpayers a lot of money, where we could potentially save money if we were able to find them services. So one program that we have is called Community Supervision. And so if a person comes into our facility and they're not a public risk at all, they've just made that, that one-time mistake or anything like that, we can put them on our community supervision unit. And then they go back out into the community. They live at home. They don't stay at the jail. And then I have deputies that go check on them all the time. They go make sure that they're going to their services that they need to get help. That if they have a job, they're doing that and they're being successful. If they violate anything on that, then they come back to jail and we take them off the program. But this program has been really successful. We've had a lot of people from different states contact us and ask us how we do this, so we're very proud of this program. We've been able to get people successfully back into the community and be successful in whatever they do after they've made that initial mistake. And then one other big program that we have is our jail chaplains program, where we have a chaplain in the jail that meets with people on a regular basis, and they try to help them find services as well, try to help them find positive influences once they get out of jail. As most of you guys can imagine, if someone doesn't have a positive influence when they get out, they go back to that old pattern of behavior, and then they end up in the jail. Okay, here's kind of just some statistics on our warrants that we receive. So we're approximately 4,000 in that area. Okay, so just in the interest of time here, what I'd like to talk about is some of the things that we do collaboratively, or how we work collaboratively with the Fargo Police Department and West Fargo Police Department. So number one, we have a number of different field services that we participate in. So I have someone assigned to the Narcotics Drug Task Force, which is a combined task force amongst all agencies, so that we can work collaboratively. And anytime that we have a task force, that's going to be fiscally responsible to everyone, right? Because I can put one person on a task force, Fargo PD can put one person on a task force, West Fargo, Moorhead, Clay County, and now we can form this group or unit of people that can work on a certain problem or certain issue. And instead of me sending 6 people from my own agency to do that, I send one, and all of us can share resources, we can share information, and that works really well to curb some issues that we deal with from time to time. So I have someone appointed to the Narcotics Drug Task Force. I have someone appointed to the Metro Area Street Crimes Unit. The Metro Area Street Crimes Unit is a unit that we have in this area that works on gang activity, and then also works on certain individuals who continually cause issues in our community. If we have people that are continually doing burglaries, thefts, and we know who those individuals are, then street crimes will work together to work on those investigations. Most recently, we have been asked by Chief Zabolski to assist on Friday and Saturday nights downtown. And so we just started that this past weekend. And that's for when the bars close, around bar close time. There's been some reported incidents, or calls for service tend to go up a little bit higher during that time, with maybe some assaults and intoxication. I'll get to you in just a second here. And so we just started that this past weekend. The goal is simply to come down with a couple of our deputies and just assist the Fargo Police Department. I think that's a very good way that we can curb some issues that we might encounter during those times. And the reason is for a number. Number one, again, it adds additional resources downtown during that time frame. It allows the Cass County Sheriff's Office to work collaboratively with Fargo PD and build that partnership. It allows us to come downtown and work together with you as a business and the citizens and build that relationship with you. It also allows us to come down and build relationships with the individuals that are patronizing those establishments. And that's very important. That's a very important mission of the Cass County Sheriff's Office, is to build those relationships. And I think it shows individuals that we're all willing to work collaboratively to solve problems. So we'll see how that goes. It's something that we just started. So certainly we're not real, it'll take us a little while to gather if that's being effective or not. So you want to give her the mic? She had a question, so. And what is your name, ma'am?
My name is Faith Dixon.
Okay.
I'm with Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
Understanding that you're going to be downtown helping Fargo PD, what is your status on how much de-escalation training does your staff have?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thanks for asking that question. We do a number of things. First of all, our officers attend training in de-escalation. whether it's through use of force or just verbal de-escalation. So we do regular training on that. We've also done or added a lot of tools that we use out on the street to assist with that. We've had body cameras for quite some time now, and those have been very effective. So how we've implemented those is obviously every deputy is wearing one, and then we review that video regularly to see how our deputies are working through situations. Is there some additional training we can give them by observing how they've worked through and de-escalated situations? We've also added a tool that we can use called the BOLA wrap. It's something new to this area, and what it does is it deploys a 7-foot tethered rope, so to speak, and we can detain someone with it. And by the use of that, that allows us to maybe not have to apply as much force if we can detain that person, not get into a physical altercation with them. So that's something that we're working through right now or using. It's something new. So we're still trying to see how effective that's going to be. And then we do a number of, you're kind of talking more to Fargo specifically, but as far as the sheriff's office and a lot of the other communities that we work with in the county, we have what's called an adopted community program. So each one of our deputies has a city that they work with. And when I say that, they go to the city council meetings, and then they also partake in the community events with those cities. So we can build relationships that way. And so that's been very effective in a lot of the work that we do.
Oh, you've had an officer at our city commissions?
No, not in yours.
Okay.
So out in the 27 cities that we have out in the county.
One more question for you. Creating a multicultural law enforcement agency should be a priority. How is your agency pushing to create a diverse workplace, especially now that we will see you all more into the city? I would like to see, and I think our community would like to see more officers that look like us. How are you pushing for a diverse workplace?
Another excellent question. The Cass County Sheriff's Office has one of the most diverse law enforcement agencies in the area. If at any point, I would invite you to come up and visit with me, and you can look at that. But certainly, when we do our hiring, we try to look at what the community's needs are, and we want a good, diverse group of individuals who understand all the cultures of all the different diverse groups that we have in our area. Because if we can do that, then obviously those individuals being in our organization can help the rest of our deputies understand how people view certain cultures and stuff like that. So, but the Cass County Sheriff's Office is very diverse. Like I said, I know that we're one of the most diverse law enforcement agencies in the area right now. So, yep, thanks for your questions. Anyone else have any other questions right now? Yes. He's gonna grab you the mic. Want to make sure I can fully hear your question.
Well, first of all, the thing about the home issues with homeless people, last year we spoke about getting a day center for the homeless, and I haven't heard any talk about that. But secondly, the issue with homelessness is housing. I mean, we have so many vacant motel rooms. Why don't we try to put people up for now until we can find them housing? But aside from that, I'm really hoping that this city, the Fargo Police Department, and the county can make a firm statement condemning white supremacy in our region, in our city, because it is an issue. On my way here, 3 houses away from me, I found this on a post. It says, "Report illegal aliens. They are criminal invaders. Deportations now." And it's from NJEHA, which is the New Jersey European Heritage Association. They are a listed white supremacist organization. We had the attack on the mosque in Moorhead. It's an issue. We had the White Lives Matter rally attempt, and people said that was a hoax. It's not. I was on the Telegram. These are public chats these people were posting and planning. But because we did our counter protests, they were on the chat saying, hey, there's 30 of them and maybe like 5 of us, forget this, and they left. And also, since they were speaking to each other on this chat with private names and didn't actually know each other, they were saying, hey, I didn't see any of you. They didn't know who they were looking for. But we saw them on the outskirts with their cameras gawking. Every single time we've marched in this city for anything, they always assume it's Black Lives Matter, no matter what it's about. We always get people looking at us with cameras, revving their engines, shouting racist comments. It's a problem in this city, and I want this sheriff's department and our local PD and our city to actively, officially say that white supremacy is condemned here because it is dangerous.
Yes, so you brought up a lot of different concerns and issues. So the first one that I'll try to address each one that you brought up if I remember them all. The first one that you brought up was the homelessness in our area, and you brought up something about a day center. I'm not fully familiar with the day center. That might have been something maybe that Fargo PD was working on, but I am glad that you brought it up because I'm not familiar with it and I'd like to learn more about it myself. So it sounds like you have. Go ahead.
So the Downtown Drop-In Center is also known as the Engagement Center. So we were able to acquire the former police station downtown, and we've had that building now for some time. We've been actively working on hiring so that we can staff it. We've also had a renovation project going on at our shelter location, so we've had to temporarily move the shelter downtown into that space until our building renovation is done. We got good news this week that is nearly completed, so we'll be able to move the shelter back. We also have onboarded 3 new advocates in the last couple of weeks and have 4 additional advocates coming on in the next month to get that up and running with the goal of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., showers, a place to connect with resources, laundry, all of that. So that's in the works.
Okay.
Concern with that was the attitude of criminalizing people who are in situations that make people homeless, like sleeping in public and people asking for money and regurgitating the same thing about, oh, they're going to need to buy booze. Maybe they are going to go buy booze, but there's a lot of issues that come with these things, and I feel like we need to also address in a way that's more sensitive and not about trying to punish people. And we talk about trying to clean up the city image. The city is trying to, I don't know, this whole town needs to talk on gentrification because these condos are popping up everywhere. Bougie, overpriced, cheap apartments are popping up everywhere. We have that giant REO building with $3.9 million condos. These are things we need to address as a city. I know.
So, yeah, and so I think some of the issues that you're bringing up, I mean, glad that you're bringing them up. Certainly enjoy the conversation. Some of them I think might be a little bit more pertinent to maybe city commission meeting on some of the stuff that but certainly if they involve criminal activity, we want to address those if we can. I don't know. I saw some of the statistics that Officer Niemeyer had up there, and I saw that some people had been issued citations, which is I think where you were going, where people were being charged with some of the things that you were mentioning. I don't know, based off of his statistics, how many contacts they maybe had with that person prior, or how many people they actually came into contact with that they just gave warnings to. Did you have that on there? I think maybe you did in some spots maybe. So I can tell you that I don't think that everyone that they're coming into contact with and the people that you named, that they're just automatically charging them. And the reason that I can say that is because they're not ending up at the jail. So.
It's not just like criminalizing them,
Sure.
stigmatizing and harassing
Sure.
and punishing this. It's hard not to sleep in public when you don't have a home to go to sleep to.
Yeah, it's.
Because you don't have anything, and they're looking for food or like maybe a shirt or something.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of important issues. So I think, all of us, and I've been in conversations with our community partners that work through some of these issues. I've sat at the table with them, and a lot of the issues that you're bringing up as concerns, there's a lot of different ways that we need to look at trying to address those. And sometimes we don't always have the services to do that. I think we're trying to figure out how to best do that. I know like in the, with people in the jail, that are leaving. One thing I could tell you is like mental health issues right now. We have a high number of people in the Cass County Jail that are, as you can imagine, are there either for addiction issues or mental health issues. And I went out and testified at the legislative level, which is where we can make some of these changes, to continue with mental health services that we have available right now, because there was at the legislative level this last time, there was a push to cut some of those services. Now's not the time to cut those. Would you agree with me? Now's probably the time to add some more services. So I went out there and testified on that, so we didn't get rid of those, so that we could continue treating. Because some people that you're referencing, there's a number of different issues that they might, underlying issues that they might have. It could be a mental health issue. It could be an addiction issue. It could be that they don't have the means to get the money to have a place to live. Those are 3 separate different issues that we need to work on. We can't encompass those with one answer. Those are a lot of different things. And a lot of those answers and solutions need to come at the state level. And I know there are people in this community that are advocating for that. And that's really where we're not trying to need to make the change.
Right, and also it's just about helping with public perception and attitudes towards the issues of homelessness in the area.
Sure.
It's about looking at people and as people and working towards service and how we're actually helping each other instead of just trying to make our community look nice, actually be a nice community.
Yeah.
Work to help people.
So, and I don't know if you want to hang out after this, and I would love to get your information, and you can help us when we do our homeless drives and stuff. If you would help us with that, that'd be awesome, because I participate in those, and I would, if you want to help us, I'd love to get your information. So. Sure. I don't think anyone wants to, I don't think anyone in here wants to, have white supremacy, racism, or classify anyone in an unequal, unfair manner. I'm not, certainly with the incidents that you talked about and people, driving by honking, yelling things at you, revving their engines, things that you made mention to earlier. Hopefully if you have those types of incidents, you're reporting those, so we can get them documented and we can address them if we can. Yep. Yeah, so I'm guessing that myself and the Fargo officers can meet with you afterwards and we could talk about that and see exactly where you got it from and see if we can monitor some of that activity. But certainly there isn't anyone, I wouldn't think in this room, that would condone that type of activity. I certainly don't. The sheriff's office doesn't. I know Fargo PD doesn't. And we certainly would want you to report those incidents so we can address them if we need to. They get an official what? Sure, it's in our mission and vision and value statement, so much like I mentioned to Faith earlier. If you want to come up to the sheriff's office, we can sit down and we can talk about that. But that's right out in our mission, vision, value statement that is on our Facebook page, and our website. Yeah, well, I don't want to limit to that, I guess is where I'm going. We want everyone to be treated fair and equal no matter what, not just white supremacy, everything. So and that's clearly what our mission and vision and value statement says. So, yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you said thank you. My name's John Bauer. I represent some condo owners downtown Fargo. I live there too. And I hope I'm using the correct, or pronouncing his name correctly, Lieutenant Kringley, is it? I had a communication with him. He was very responsive. And I just want to say thank you. I'm hearing that you're assisting the Fargo police in trying to keep the noise down and that sort of thing. We have a big problem in downtown Fargo as far as constant noise in the area, especially between 1:30 and 3 a.m. It gets really out of hand. Our location is a half a block south of the old Broadway, and it can be pretty loud on the weekends especially. And our goal is not to punish people. Our goal is there are noise ordinances in the area.
and they're not really, at least I don't see them being really enforced, and I appreciate your assistance.
And are we talking like vehicle noise, or are we talking pedestrian noise?
Both know.
Both, okay.
And you pick it, and again, I think the communication between us and the police department has been very good. I think people have been very pragmatic. This isn't going to be fixed really quickly, but since the pandemic, the officers patrolling has gone down, in our opinion, drastically. You probably have more important things to deal with, but to us, it's been real difficult.
And I don't want to speak on behalf too much of, Chief Cebulski or Fargo PD. I know that they're short resources like we are. So that might be some of it. I'm not throwing out excuses to you, so don't take it as that. And like I said, I don't want to speak for them fully, but I know most of us saw they hired 13 officers yesterday. They're still down officers. Like I was mentioning earlier, we're down 18. So we're really trying to do some adjustments with schedules and how we can utilize our resources to the best ability, which is why they contacted us to, hey, can we get some help and add some additional resources. So some of the things that you mentioned, the noise ordinance, there is a state statute noise ordinance. It's not going to be as specific as a city ordinance on, you guys have a specific city ordinance on noise complaints? Okay.
Loud noise, unnecessary loud noise, which is kind of relative, otherwise, if people have a party,
So we would do our best to assist with that, following the state statute. Theirs might be a little bit more specific, but certainly, I think, thanks for bringing that to our attention, both the Sheriff's Office and Fargo PD, so we can pass that information along and try to see if we can help curb it a little bit. I mean, some of it ends up being that, are we in the right place at the right time to address the issue? Could it, do we need to do an educational piece to try to help some of that? But probably mostly it's going to be making contact with those individuals and seeing if we can get it curbed that way. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Do we have other questions from citizens, business owners?
Regarding the incident on September 5th, the critical incident, I do know that you guys posted on Facebook that there was a shelter in place. Was there a reverse 911 that came out along with that shelter in place, do you know? The critical incident on September 5th, you guys, right, so you're alerting, so the hotel, we're from the Jasper Hotel. Yeah, so there was something that came out to let us know that there was an incident going on with shelter in place.
We would probably have to gather that information from whoever was incident command that evening.
Okay,
I'm guessing there was a Casclay Alerts or Everbridge sent out. If everyone knows what that is, and if you don't have that, please sign up for it. What that is that took place of the old Code Red system. So that constitutes you going to, you can go to our website if you want, you can probably go to Fargo PD's website and sign up for it, and they'll give you information on how to do it. And simply what it is you put your phone information in there, your address of where you live, if you want to put your business address because you're there sometimes, that's fine. And then how it works is if there's a critical incident in a particular area and we want to notify people within that area, we send it out through that notification system, so then it would come to your cell phone. And that notification system can be drawn in a lot of different areas. Oftentimes when we have them out in the county, where the incident is, we'll do like a 2-mile circular radius, and that's how we choose where to send it to. But it only works if you sign up for it. If you don't sign up and put your information in, then you're not gonna get those notifications. But as far as specifically what was done during that incident, we would have to check with the incident commander that evening, the person that was running the scene. If you wanted us to follow up with you and get you that information, we could do that, or if you simply wanted us to make mention or visit with them to make sure that that was thought of if it wasn't done, we can do that as well. So. Yeah. Yes. Thanks for asking the question, because that helps us get the information out. So.
As an employer downtown,
I do want to thank Jillian and her staff. I mean, we've worked very closely with them. So there is no ignorance to the homelessness downtown, and we do try to treat people with dignity and respect. So our first call isn't to the police department. We try to work with Jillian as much as possible, unless there's public safety. So I just want to make that known, that there is not an ignorance to downtown employers of the homeless population, and we are partnering with those other people that are wanting to improve that and help those individuals break that cycle.
Yep, and I appreciate our conversation that we had prior to the presentation that we did this morning. I very much got that from you in visiting with you, how you guys are trying to find different solutions as a business to address some of those things. That's always a good thing. What I want to make sure people aren't afraid to do, and I know these guys would definitely back me in this, is that people aren't afraid to call us. Just because you call us doesn't mean someone's going to get in trouble, right? You giving us a call is a way for us to come out and meet with you, see what the concern is, what the issue is that you're trying to work through, and come up with a solution together. Just because we're there doesn't mean that people are always going to get arrested and that we're going to criminalize everything. Sometimes it's a matter of letting the business know or our citizens know what services are available to help them next time if they find themselves in the same situation. Now, the incident that you talked about earlier where you had someone charging at your staff at different times, we need to call law enforcement and figure out why that's happening, because that can cause violence on both ends, right? If that person charges at one of your employees and your employees is carrying some sort of a weapon to protect themselves, that could get that person hurt. It could get the person that they're running after hurt. And so we really need to come down and visit with that person and see why that would be happening and why they would be doing that, because that's something we don't want to happen. So you're never bothering any of us by calling us and asking us for assistance. These guys would tell you the same thing. Okay, that's why you have law enforcement as a service to you. I would expect my staff, as the sheriff, to respond to a complaint that you called in, if it was us specifically, and that they would come and visit with you and work with you through the issue, and never give you the indication that you are bothering them by calling them, because that's what we're here to do, is to help you. So, and like I said, I appreciated your guys' conversation earlier. It's good to know the things that you're kind of dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Is there any other questions for any of us? You gotta ask anything, even if it's off topic of this. I appreciate these opportunities to visit with our citizens and get information out, because very much like Faith asked earlier, how do we work and be diverse and things like that, as people coming and asking us questions so that we can be transparent and try to answer those and get the information out to you. So. Any other issues that people are having that they're not sure how to deal with or work through or need information on? I couldn't hear what you said.
We have the only abortion clinic in the entire state, and every single week on Wednesdays, we have women getting harassed on the sidewalk when they're going to their medical appointments. I volunteer as an escort sometimes, and the things I see these people do to try to push their views on these people when they sometimes travel more than 3 hours to come to these appointments at a very vulnerable, sensitive time. And I went to town hall, another police town hall, I don't know how long ago, but Mayor Mahoney was there too, and we talked about harassment and what constitutes as harassment, and what they're doing clearly is harassment. But I see Fargo PD drive by, and they know one of the protesters that's out there because he's there all the time, and he also sits in front of the Fargo Police Department with the Blue Lives Matter sign. So they're chummy, and they drive by, and he waves and they wave. And that doesn't give the perception of caring about the women that they are harassing on a weekly basis. And I feel like something needs to be done about that. There's freedom of speech, but then there's also people actively using their religious views to justify trying to block these women and hand them materials they don't want, saying horrible things to them when they're just trying to get medical services that they need. And this is something that needs to be addressed. Police drive by all the time, don't stop, but once in a while there's calls. Usually it's the protesters calling saying we did something because we're trying to walk them to the building, and they'll try to cut in front of us or cut us off, and then they'll say we pushed them, and then they'll call the police.
Sure. Thanks again for your question. I'm not typically working down in that area, so I mean, I can answer your question in general. These guys would probably have to be a little bit more specific as if they get called to that area to address some of those issues. Again, like I mentioned to you earlier, certainly if someone is causing an issue for you, you know, hopefully that you're calling that in and reporting it. I'm not sure if that's happening with all the people that you're referencing. I'm not sure. So, sure. So, So a couple things is, number one is we can only do things that the law allows us to do, right? So if people can legally be somewhere, they have a right to be, you know, they can be there legally, they can be there. I guess I'm thinking where you're maybe thinking that someone might be crossing the line is maybe through harassment or disorderly conduct. And so if you felt that way, then obviously we would want you to report that. I don't know, I mean, I know the area that you're talking about, but I don't know where the people that you're referencing are specifically standing, if they're legal to be where they are. People can say things, you know, based on freedom of speech, as long as it's not harassing you or being disorderly to you, would be the only statutes that I'd be familiar with enforcing in that particular situation, or like a criminal trespass if they weren't supposed to be in that area. There might be a city ordinance that might be more specific to something that I'm not aware of, but that's what we would look to enforce if we were down there. But again, we'd have to make sure that we could legally enforce it. We can't just enforce things if they're, you know, not on the law or that type of thing, so.
Okay, with the gentleman here, I also owned a business downtown about 6 years ago, and there was a lot of issues with the noise. So there was a lot of issues, so I do understand that. But I think, again, we need to put it back on the establishments a bit too, because downtown kind of gives you, I'm from a bigger city, so I'm from Chicago, so our downtown life is twice as much as it is here, but it's noisy. But if the bars are supposed to close at 2 o'clock, we need to be able to do something with over-serving, and I've been to liquor control board meetings, and they know there's a problem. Alcoholism is a huge issue. It's a drug. But now we're facing teen. And we know that when, you know, anybody can over-serve and drink more than they need to, and then they get out of control. But we need to put some of the blame back on the establishments because they're the ones that's serving it. So I go downtown at 2 o'clock. I go downtown at maybe 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I might be out with a bunch of friends, but about 1:30, I'm ready to go home. But then I can't get out of the parking lot because the bars have overserved. And so now we have fights, bunch of fights. It's horrific downtown on a Saturday or Friday night. But I feel, and I've stressed that we need to have a program for our young adults to go to distract them from wanting to go downtown. 18, 19-year-olds trying to be downtown. Even if they're down there, they're just walking, but then they're drinking. So again, I have to put some of that blame back on the establishments and say, okay, what can you all do differently to stop the underage drinking and also be responsible when you're serving more than the people need?
Yeah, thanks for your thoughts, Faith. I wouldn't be in any position to comment on the liquor board and how they address those issues. I'm not on the board and I don't want to speak for them. Again, what I would simply fall back on is that a lot of times when decisions are made on the types of things that you brought up, it's probably going to be information or statistically driven information. So if we could get instances documented that you're referencing, then those would be things that we could bring specific information or situations to the Liquor Control Board, and then hopefully they could address those. So, do you guys have any other comments? Okay. Anything else from anyone? Yeah. I would just mention, from the sheriff's office perspective, is that we certainly look forward to working with you guys however we can and assisting Fargo PD. And as the sheriff, I take it very serious that I'm elected into my position by you. The sheriff's position is a position that you as citizens control. I'm not appointed by a mayor or a city council. You elect me into my position. I take that very serious, and the fact that if you ever want to call me up, if you ever want to stop up to the sheriff's office and visit with me about a situation, incident, concerns, I'm always open to that. I typically take those calls personally, and you're not going to get pushed off on someone else. So we have a citizen request line that you can email in on if you'd like that type of a response. But I'm always open for a good conversation. And so with that, if you guys have anything else? Okay. Thanks for coming this morning. Appreciate it.